East Gloucester Veterans. Oh, sorry. I'm going to call this meeting of the East Gloucester Veterans Memorial School Building Committee to order. This meeting is recorded by video and audio in accordance with the state open meeting law, consistent with the governor's orders suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and banning certain gatherings, such as in-person meetings. This meeting will be conducted by remote participation. The public may not physically attend this meeting, but every effort will be made to allow the public to view and listen to the meeting in real time and participate when necessary. That being said, Yash, could we have is Yash here? Do we have
Yes.
a roll call vote for attendance? Yeah, I lost everybody there.
Good evening, everybody. Jonathan Pope.
Here.
Thank you. Ben Lemus.
Here.
Thank you. Richard Safar.
Here.
Thank you. Katie Clancy.
Here.
Thank you. John Dunn. It's not here. Gary Frisch.
Here.
Thank you. Matthew Fusco.
Here.
Thank you. Grant Harris.
Here.
Thank you. Joey Lucido. Nope. Jameson Manning. Nope. Amy Pascarello.
She's here.
She's here.
She's on mute.
I think she's frozen.
She's frozen. Yeah.
Okay, I'll mark up present. Caitlin Nunez.
Here.
Thank you. Anybody else?
That's it.
Oh.
So we have 9 members. Thank you very much. And we'll proceed with the first order of business, which is the approval of the East Gloucester Veterans Memorial Project meeting minutes of April 14th, 2022. Are there any corrections or omissions?
So we did have some people that were still listed on there that need to be removed. Donna Compton, and then I think we didn't put in Mayor Verger's name, so that needs to be adjusted. And I think also the adjustment for your role, Jonathan. So we want to make those corrections.
Yes. I'm not sure whether we have to stick with those until we notify MSBA of the change, whether they're here or not, or whether we just can make the changes and then notify MSBA.
Yeah, I mean, we need to get those changes made, as like with Donna. I mean, she's not involved at all, so
Right.
we should get that.
This will
changed.
get done next week.
Okay.
It's just a question of confirming with Jameson and then just redoing the chart as to what people's roles are.
So we can replace Donna's name with Stacy and the mayor's change, and then we'll on this one, and then we'll pick up those other changes on the next one.
Okay, but they have to be appointed and sworn in, technically.
Okay, has that happened with the mayor and with Stacy?
I can't tell you. I assume it has with Stacy, but John Dunn would be the person to know the answer to that.
Okay, well, why don't you and I follow up after this,
Okay.
and we'll make those corrections as needed.
Okay, so are there any other corrections or omissions in the meeting minutes of April 14th? Okay, seeing none, I move that we approve the minutes meetings as presented.
Second.
Yes, can we have a roll call vote, please?
So, Jonathan Pope.
Yes.
Thank you. Ben Lemus.
Yes.
Thank you. Richard Safar.
Yes.
Thank you. Katie Clancy.
Kathy, you're muted.
Yes.
Thank you. Gary Frisch.
Yes.
Thank you. Matthew Fusco.
Yes.
Thank you. Grant Harris.
Yes.
Thank you. Amy Pascarello.
She's trying to get back out right now.
Okay. Caitlin Nunez.
Yes.
Thank you. We have 8 votes. We can wait on Amy.
Okay, we'll wait until Amy comes back and
Alright.
ask her if she approves it, but we can move on. And because Amy's not here, let's skip over the approval of the invoices and go to the reports because we don't have enough people to vote on.
Okay, let me
Okay.
pull this up here. All right, so you can see the screen now, right? I'm sharing.
Small, yeah.
All right, well, here you see one of the latest pictures from the site. It's kind of exciting how it's starting to take shape. You can see all these white areas on the upper right-hand corner of the building. Those are the glue lambs that are wrapped for protection. And also very noticeable here in the center, we can see some of the masonry that's underway for one of the stairs. So generally, the project continues to track to the schedule. The CM's update from the last month, it's still showing the 3-day projected delay, but we do believe that that'll be removed by the next month's update. And the budget is also still on track for the 66.7 million total. Steel erection building A is 100% complete. Building B is almost there, and the retaining wall on the west side is finished, which means that all the retaining walls on the site are complete. We've been able to finish the underground in building A for the sanitary and storm, and are currently looking to wrap up the underground electric and radon in that building as well. We did have a slab poured on the 3rd floor, and as you can see from the picture, masonry is now started and well underway. So overall, things are going well. We continue to have a large amount of submittals. I feel like we're getting close to, that's starting to drop off, but that's keeping the team very busy. And it is very important that we get all of this stuff done, as we've talked about before, because material availability continues to be an issue in this climate. So for the most part, the activities remain the same as last month. The OPM continues to manage the overall project. The architect is working now on finalizing the playground equipment. So that's something new, as well as the keying plan. We also have another MSBA submission that's being put together. That'll be the final one. So that'll be coming up pretty soon. And the CM is busy managing all the things on site, as well as a lot of material inspections lately. So together, we're able to make this thing go forward and keep the project on schedule and on budget. So here's some of the financial updates that you've seen from last month. Not really a lot here new. And unfortunately, this is not showing this right number. This is actually a 30% complete, not 20%. So, we're about a third of the way through. Contract awards, that number has remained the same, but our subcontract awards, the pending ones, I think last month I presented was over 2 million. So we have awarded another subcontract that's for the landscape. We'll go over that a bit later. And then on the bottom here, you can see the remaining ones: window treatments, theater drapes, playground equipment, and the fencing. And the theater drapes, we kind of had that wrapped up, but there was a last minute change. So we're finalizing that. We've got a meeting scheduled with them tomorrow. Still working through lots of potential change orders. These numbers, kind of go up and down since there's so many, if we get a credit that's added or sometimes a costly change order, that number will shift, but we are working to get those completed. We've been able to wrap up a few more this week, but there are also new ones that come on as we go forward. But many of these were things that we anticipated, and they were included within the GMP as holds. So there are some that were not, and we talked about those before. The biggest one is when we added the classroom benches back in. But to date, we don't have any official change orders that have been issued. Here you can see our cash flow summaries. So this is just tracking along. We're pretty much going to be following the billing for the CM, as those are the larger amounts for the overall cash flow. You'll see here that the number actually went down quite a bit from this month, but we're expecting probably next month to be the peak billing for the CM in the entire project. So we're going to have a few months here where the billings are at a very high level, and then gradually they'll drop off, and then pretty consistently over the next few months as the project starts to wrap up at that point. So framing is also underway. You can't really see very much right now looking at that site photo because you don't see the studs, but the track has been going in, and the studs should be following shortly. We have a playground meeting tomorrow to review some of the changes there. The company that we've been working with, Compan, has been very accommodating to address the desires for the various pieces of equipment. We're really trying to get the most flexible kind of equipment that'll be best suited for the kids out there, both to give them a lot of variety in their play, as well as safety and accessibility. So we've been happy to work with them because they've been meeting our needs with that, and also with the budget. We're going to have a keying meeting coming up. All the room numbers have been finalized, so we can move forward with that. The date is not set yet, but that should be in June. And then, of course, we'll have our next school building committee the following month on June 9th. Lead time is, really the big concern still, but we are still tracking within the schedule. So OPM, like I said, there's not really much new. We're going to continue to give you these summaries in the report because it's nice to be able to pass those on to other people as needed within the community. If someone has a question about what's going on, you can just hand over that whole report. But the OPM is basically working on the overall management, also communicating with the neighbors. There's some more communication that's been going out recently for some upcoming events, which we'll talk about in a little bit. I guess on this slide here. So we did have a concrete pour last month. That was, I believe, was our second or third, but that also went off without a hitch. Notifications were sent out via email and flyers, and they're also being posted on the school's website, which I think is very helpful. You can see a banner on top. If you click on that banner, it'll give you the updates. So within the next month, we're going to have a few more activities that people should be aware of. So one of them will be that temporary construction lights are going to be installed probably the middle of this month. So here in the next week or so. This is necessary to provide the required lighting for the workers. Now that we have all the decking in and there's more finer work that needs to get done. So OSHA has requirements for the amount of light that's necessary for the workers in order to be able to work safely. And then some of those lights will remain operational once work completes in order to keep the building secure and safe. But we have been able to work together with the contractors to reduce the amount of lighting during off hours. We have another concrete pour that's coming up and it's scheduled for the 26th of May. So the weather is still looking good for that. That one will be going very late, probably till around midnight, but there should be very minimal noise with that. The main thing is just that the lights are going to be on while they continue to work. And we have sent some notifications out already to let all the residents know what's going on, but we're going to send out another one a little bit closer to the date, just in case there's any changes to confirm the date of that. And then also one thing that is not noted on this, but that came up recently, is that there will be some workers on site on Saturday. That is, part of the working hours. So they'll be there during, the regular times, but just so that people are aware that, there will be some work going on. It's basically going to be some welding. So it shouldn't be anything that is very disruptive to any of the neighbors. Okay, moving on to our designer. The design team, as I mentioned, has been very busy with the all the submittal reviews and also answering the RFIs. Bryce was able to get away for a little R&R, which was very important because he's been burning the midnight oil, trying to get these turned around as quickly as possible to keep the project on schedule. And we have been able to kind of slowly catch up with the flow of new submittals and RFIs that are being put forth. So you can see these are the numbers in the bottom, are overall how many have been issued to date. And then on the right, you have the number that are open right now to be reviewed. So there's still, still a pile on his desk if these were paper. So before I move on here, I guess one thing I wanted to bring up is that we had a proprietary item for the safety glazing, and we have a substitution on that came from the contractor. I'm going to let Michelle talk about that a little bit more, but we did make a change on there. It's not really going to affect the performance of the project, but I'll have Michelle explain why we made that change from the proprietary item that we had previously approved to the substitution.
Thank you.
I'll actually pick that one off, Brian.
Oh, okay, Brad's gonna cover that.
Yeah, so the reason that we wanted to flag this was that we've spoken a lot about school guard glass, right, and the benefits of that and why we were using that in certain areas of the building.
There are two songs on the line. Sitting there waiting.
Hey,
Unmute. Stop. Stop.
Amy, if you could mute yourself.
I thought I was, sorry.
No worries.
Yeah, no problem. So what we wanted to do is just explain it to you. So one of the reasons that we went proprietary for that is because there's not a lot of vendors that actually make that type of glass or glazing. And so we wanted to make sure that we got the specification that we were looking for. And so that's why we went proprietary. So what actually ended up happening here is that the glazing contractor, subcontractor, was able to find another supplier. There's new people that are entering the market that were able to meet the technical specification. And so it's no change in terms of the performance of the glazing. We just wanted to let people know, because it was a proprietary specification, that when the subcontractor came forward with the substitution request, we reviewed it, met all of the specifications. So no harm, no foul, no cost increase, everything's fine. But we just wanted to let everybody know, because we had talked on that under the auspices of it being a proprietary spec. So it has changed, but again, everything's just fine with the glass that they're providing. And that's about it.
Thanks, Brad. You may have any questions or can.
Oh, yeah. So Brian, of course, so have you and your team, Mark, whoever, reviewed that? I mean, I just want to, this is obviously an important piece of safety in the building. And just want to make sure that, you guys as the OPMs have reviewed the specifications and that you agree with Brad and his team.
Yeah, so it's the architect's responsibility. I mean, they hold the design of the project, so they have the say about what gets approved and what doesn't. We do feel comfortable with their recommendation, but we don't have that responsibility to make the technical determination about whether it can be accepted or not. So that has to be done by the architect.
Okay. Because of the nature of this, the purpose of this product, so to speak, I think it's worthwhile just for you guys. I mean, let me ask this question. Have you reviewed that with Brad and his team to a level where you guys are satisfied that it serves its purpose?
Yes. So again, I can't make the technical determination, but we do look over the submittals that are processed that go from W.T. Rich to Doran Whittier. So there's many that get reviewed, and this is one of them that's been reviewed as well.
Okay.
And again, as the OPM, we participated in a variety of discussions and conversations about this. And like Brad said, we wanted to make sure we had the proper performance. At the time, you went proprietary because there was only one outfit, School Guard Glass, that made the glass.
Yep.
Since that time, there are others. And again, based upon probably 3 or 4 conversations we've had in the past few weeks about this, it's been made clear to us, the OPM, that from a technical standpoint, they're equivalent. So we have no reason to not recommend and advise we proceed with that, especially since there's no impact to cost or schedule or performance.
Great. Thank you. That's what I want to get at was, have you guys been working together on this? You guys,
Yes.
had a group, you essentially signed off on it. Again, Brad, you understand where I'm coming from. Just want to have belts and suspenders on this.
Yeah, no problem. Another set of eyes never hurts.
All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Other questions about that switch there for anybody?
Not seeing any.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Amy is here, I believe, Amy. And so we can go back to our votes.
Sure.
I'm sorry that I'm going in and out. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep, we can hear you.
All right, I'm going to mute so you don't hear me when I'm not speaking.
Okay.
So
So
let's go back to the.
well, we never
So-
voted the minutes. the
Yep.
meeting minutes. So Amy, we put out a vote for the meeting minutes and asked if there were any corrections or omissions, and we started the vote, but then we realized you had disappeared. So how do you vote on approval of the last April 14th meeting minutes?
I vote to approve.
Okay, so it
Thank you.
passes unanimously. So we can go on to the invoices now, Ryan, if you'd like.
Thank you. Yeah, we have a total of 5 invoices this month for a total of just over $2 million. There are 2 of them from UTS. One of them is from the previous month that was delayed. And then we have, of course, W.T. Rich, Doran Whittier, and CBRE. Let me pull those up so we can go through those.
And that link if you want to use the presentation.
So, that's here. Too many screens. Okay. Can you see my screen now?
Mhm.
Great. Okay, so we'll just cycle through these. Here's our 68-page invoice for W.T. Rich for a total of $2,082,959. This is for all the work that's been performed in April. It's a little bit less than the previous one. So sometimes that happens, even though the work's been ramping up, depending on when the subs submit their invoices. Sometimes there's some little variation. But this invoice has been reviewed by our office as well as the architect's office, and we are recommending approval of it. Here's one of the invoices for UTS, the amount of $4,346. And here's the second one in the amount of $3,680. And both of these invoices are for inspections that are being performed on behalf of the owner for steel and concrete work that's been going on. Doran Whittier's invoice this month is for $91,645. That covers their work on the contract administration. There's also some geotechnical work where the engineer was out on site and reviewed some of the samples. And then there was an invoice that was passed on for permitting that was back from the fall, but they just received the invoice from their sub. So that one is included for $440. And then for CBRE, we have our standard monthly billing of $60,000 for the past month's OPM services. So that's the total. Again, 5 invoices totaling $2,242,630.26. So we'd like to get a vote for approving those 5 invoices.
Okay, are there any questions before we make a motion? Okay, seeing none, I'll make a motion that we approve the 5 invoices as presented from WT Ridge, Doran Whittier, CBRE Harry, and 2 from UTS for the total amount of $2,242,630.26, and I so move.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? Okay. Seeing none, Yash, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Jonathan Pope,
Yes.
thank you. Ben Lemes,
Yes.
thank you. Richard Safar,
Yes.
thank you. Katie Clancy,
Yes.
thank you. Gary Fish,
Yes.
thank you. Matthew Fusco,
Yes.
thank you. Grant Harris,
Yes.
thank you. Amy Pascarello,
Yes.
thank you. Caitlin Nunes,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay, it
Thank you.
passes unanimously. So we can pay those bills. So is there anything else?
Yep. Let's pick up here where we left off.
Where were we? Okay. Go back.
So we talked about what the OPM and architect were doing. And of course, we want to know what the CM has been doing on site. Can you see the screen now? I think it's visible, right? Okay. So one of the things I wanted to point out about the CM is that WT Rich takes safety on the site very seriously. And I don't know if any of you were paying attention to some of the things that have been in the news lately. There have been a number of significant construction accidents in the region. And, you know, I'm pleased to say that we have had no accidents on site. Their eyes and ears are always looking out for what needs to be done to prevent problems and, you know, make sure that those are addressed ahead of time so we don't have any substantial failures. So we appreciate their effort with that. Of course, they continue to manage the overall project. You can see we've had 24,000 worker hours to date, so a lot of work has been completed. And of course, they're also very busy with all these submittals because they issue the initial submittal before it gets reviewed by Doran Whittier. Here you can see the milestone activities. So we have had some slip here on the steel. You can see in building A that was completed April 15th. But structural steel building B for substantial completion is showing April 28th. So that's back on track. So as I mentioned before, we expect that next month's project update will not be showing any delay at all. So here's the schedule. Maybe someone from WT Rich can kind of take us through what we're looking at now, and then we can take a look at the drone video as well. Or if you want to talk about it while we look at the drone, I can start that.
Yeah, I'll just give a quick update on where we stand with schedule. Hopefully you guys can hear me. So again, we shared this last month, just kind of giving a general sense of progress as we move to substantial completion in June. So obviously being in May, we've kind of entered, you know, at the halfway point of pouring concrete slabs. We've started, you know, as Brian mentioned, we've started the exterior building facade, getting some of the rough framing going and the installation of the MEPs. So we're actually, Brian, if you don't mind, John and I've got sort of this new technology we want to try to roll out. Yeah, I don't know how it's going to go, but we're going to give it a shot instead of the drone video because many of you have probably seen the exterior at this point. So we're going to try to get inside the building.
I just need
blow your
Maria.
mind.
I need Maria to let me share my screen.
I'm sorry, who needs access?
John Rich. Yep.
Okay, hold on one second.
Thanks.
So John's going to drive this thing and I'm going to narrate it.
Okay.
We're going
you
to see
should be
how
all
it
set.
goes.
Yep. So Yeah, before we get into the narration, I just want to mention, so we just started using this tool called Open Space. Can you guys see my screen, picture of the building?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so Open Space is pretty cool. Our project engineer or anyone else, they walk the site. They do this like twice a week. They have like a 360 camera mounted on their hard hat, and they walk it at a fairly slow pace. And they walk through each floor, and it's doing a 360 capture of the building. So it's really good data for a lot of reasons, quality control. We can go back in time and look at things. So you're kind of seeing it at a pretty early stage, but this is on the 3rd floor. You can actually see here. This is the path he walked, right? You can see I'm standing in this corner of the building right now, and you can see I'm looking this way. I can jump to different parts of the thing if we want, but for this, we'll just start back here where he started. Turn around, that's looking out that way, huh? Looking at the neighbors. So, and these little discs are like little sort of points, capture points where you can kind of jump to where you want to go next. Screen kind of turns dark. You can see not that much going on in these floors, but I'm gonna let Alex I'll walk you through the floor, and Alex is gonna talk generally about what's going on in that floor as we go. So this is the 3rd floor. This is the west end of the building right here. So Alex, you wanna kind of take it away, and I'll just sort of show whatever might be relevant.
Sure. So just to kind of set the context for you guys, we're working with an A building, 2nd floor, 3rd floor, down to 1st floor. So we'll jump down to 2nd floor in a second, but we did want to kind of start at the top, top down approach here. So as John mentioned, this is kind of the next step we're getting to in terms of getting our rough MEP stuff going. You can see a lot of the layout on the floor, which is essentially, how these guys are going to frame the building. They basically put marks on the ground, and then the framers will come and basically follow, a step-by-step plan to getting the interior walls going. So you can kind of see the enormity of some of these classrooms, some of these spaces as they are, again, laid out on the floor and then eventually framed. So right here, you're at the extended learning space, which you can see basically goes, steel to steel. It's a gigantic space. So when we jump down to the 2nd floor in a second, you'll kind of see a little bit more of how those spaces are coming along. So again, 3rd floor underway, getting a lot of the piping through up to the roof. You can see the white PVC pipe. That's actually part of our radon system that's carried down through the slab. You can see a lot of the rain leaders being installed as well. Basically the roof drains being tied to the roof and dropped down to the slab and exiting the building. So we're actually looking from west to east, where B building eventually will be, kind of end of the corridor of A building.
Yeah, we didn't do a walk in this area yet because it's all just deck and not turned over to us yet. All right, want to jump down to the 2nd floor?
Sure.
Okay. Let's start over here. Kind of the same corner we were before.
Yeah, John, if you want to just rotate, you can see the stairwells. They should be kind of built up to a point just below it. So you can see the hydromobiles that are there for the masonry stairs. So actually, as of today, this was taken on May 9th. So as of today, they've surpassed the 2nd floor with their masonry block. So at this point, they're working their way up from 1st floor to 2nd floor, but you can start to see more of the piping through, actually making the connections with the vents and whatnot. A little bit more layout on the ground. You can see the top tracks, which is how they start their framing. They have a lot of the top track installed at this point. We typically like to keep some of the bottom track off so our lifts can move and not damage the stud framing as it gets installed. So they start with the top track and then they'll start putting studs up as well. So again, this is looking west to east down the corridor of the 2nd floor A building. You can see the brace frames, which get enclosed framing as well. That's part of the structural integrity of the building. A lot of the cores in the floor as well, which will get used by various piping making its way from the 1st floor to the 2nd floor. So again, that's another stairwell right in front of us. They're creeping up from 1st floor to 2nd floor. You can see another one of the stanchions for the hydromobile. So I believe that's stair 2, number 2. But yeah, no, progress is going great on the second floor. I think as Brian mentioned, we've gotten studs on site as of Wednesday. So you'll start to see as you drive past this building, you'll start to see the building getting closed with exterior framing. John's down to the first floor, obviously, at this point. As we've mentioned before, a lot of the underground MEP stuff below the slab's been installed at this point. As I mentioned, all those rain leaders are tied in through the slab and exiting the building. So yeah, you can see that stair 1 shaft being built. You don't see a lot of stuff on the ground because it's all been covered by crushed stone. So we're actually in really good shape. And Brian may have mentioned, we're preparing that. Actually, next week, we'll start getting the rebar in, a lot of the mesh as well, preparing to pour the slab on grade on, I believe, May 26th is our target date. So we're in really good shape there. You can see some of the guts, if you want to call it, under the slab there. That's the electrical room, which have some of the larger feeders, feeding that space as a secondary electric room in A building. You can see the stair 2 shaft as well. So yeah, it's pretty amazing to see this was 3 days ago. And if we were to go to today, just the amount of progress that's taken place since. So we typically do these shots, the open space shots, twice a week. So if we did this on May 9th, we'll probably do one, either tomorrow or the beginning of next week, depending on how many we've done so far. So we wanted to give you guys kind of an insight into the interior of the building, because since, most of you seen the shape of the exterior with the drone video and whatnot at this point. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you guys may have.
Just one thing I'm going to point out that, as the OPM looking at this, it's pretty impressive because a picture's worth at least 1,000 words. But then also by having this level of detail being shared with the committee and the public, WT Rich, just generally, because I've worked with them on a number of projects, keeps a pretty clean, orderly site. But I would think that by having this technology, it's going to even increase the likelihood that things will be kept neat, clean, and orderly, which helps with safety and the overall production of the project. And when people see this, you'll really appreciate all the work that's going on and seeing the difference between what we'll see next time versus this time. You'll be able to see the incredible amount of work that gets put in place by, maybe 100 or so workers each day. Maybe not 100.
Yeah.
Not 100 yet. I would just say also, Mark, this open space tool, this is great for just doing little virtual tours, call it, of where we're at now. But, the data is very sophisticated. So you can do split screen and it'll match up and line up the shots. And if you have a current shot and you want to look at that exact view from a previous walk a week ago, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, you can put them side by side. You can see differences. You can also, when you're further along, they have kind of this X-ray mode, which is, even though the current state might be the walls all enclosed, because you've done past captures, you can say, what would that wall look like if we stripped off the drywall? What would it look like before we did the MEPs or before we did the insulation, let's say? And you can kind of go back in time, check out blocking and things like that. So it's pretty powerful tool. I think it's good. If we're talking to we're just rolling this out. This is the first project we're using this tool on, so we're pretty excited about it. But if we're talking to the architect and people remote, we can pull this up, we can share a screen, we can show exactly what we're looking at. And you can see, it's not like super high resolution, but it's pretty good to get a good idea of it. So anyway, hopefully it was useful for you guys just to, like Alex said, we could do another aerial view of the exterior building. We thought this might be a little more interesting for you guys.
And again, also just to point out that this will be, I would hope and expect, very useful data and tool to the DPW, because they're going to maintain and operate the building in the future. So, you'll be able to do investigation if there's, there won't be, hopefully, but if, say, there were a leak in the inside a wall, they can use this tool to find out exactly what's inside that wall and where. and probably lead to less destructive investigation. And it'll help them when they lay out all their preventative maintenance, things of that nature. So I'm impressed with this. This is the first time I've seen it. I think it's going to be very, very good and useful.
I just have a quick question. John, can you run it like a recorded walkthrough, something like that we could put on like a website or?
I believe the answer is yes. But I need a little time to confirm the mechanism for that, but I'm pretty sure the answer is yes to that.
All right.
I think it just goes through.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I think-
amazing how the technology, how quickly those things change. And in our industry, things generally are quite traditional. It's only pretty recently that we've had some major advances with technology. And I think there's still a lot more to come. So it's exciting to be part of that. And I appreciate you sharing that, John. We've been looking at that as well, to use on future projects. And we're very impressed with the types of configurations that they offer and the ways that it can improve the communication between the different team members. It can make things more efficient. And also just help, just like now, to be able to see what's going on very easily within the building without actually having to be there yourself.
I just said for the committee, sorry, real quickly for the committee, we'd love some feedback. Would you rather, see this and the drone, just the drone, alternate? We can spend more time, less time going forward. Just if you have any feedback about how you want to use this, and we're happy to kind of tailor it to your preferences.
I think this is very useful, and I like seeing it, but it might be a little over the top technical for other people. I don't know. The drones are great. I love watching the drones. So.
Yeah, I think alternating would be nice.
Yeah, I agree.
We'll switch it up for you. Keep you surprised.
Here you go. And then also, just what Matt was saying is about because a couple it'd be great for community members, from the two schools who are interested to see that and see that sort of thing. And so I don't know if, as you said, John, you're going to check it out and see if we can do it as a playing version. So, but then we can get it on the website, and Matt and Amy are also going to help out the website too. So things are going to be getting better. And because Kathy and I are pretty good, but we're not as technically savvy as Matt and Amy. So
Amy, not me.
just trying to just give you some credit.
Thanks. I appreciate it, but we all know. We all.
My phone skills today don't say that I'm tech savvy.
Right.
Yeah, I think what you guys are doing out there are great. I'm a big fan. So if you had a YouTube channel, I'd be a subscriber. Okay, let's keep moving here.
Landscape
you can see this now. This is where we're left off with the schedule. So we won't play the drone video since we got a good coverage there. So we had some interior shots. Again, you have these with you so you can pass them around. But I think what John presented was a little more exciting than this. But here you can see the retaining wall that's complete out there. Okay, a few more things we wanted to cover. Landscape boulders. So we made the decision to bring in some landscape boulders to the front of the building. This was something that was originally cut out of the project, but we had an opportunity. Dennis had noticed when we were excavating, we've got all these big boulders. Maybe we could reuse some of them. So we've kind of pursued that together with W.T. Rich and with Doran Whittier, talking with the landscape architect. And the landscape architect came out and identified a number of boulders that would be appropriate for what you see here in the picture. So we no longer have these granite benches. Those had to be cut out, but now we can put these boulders back in. So I think that'll add a very nice visual interest to the front of the building. also give the kids something to lean up against, and overall enhance the landscape. And the good news here is that the cost to bring in new boulders, which is what we originally had in the project, was about $100,000. So by being able to salvage these boulders to use at the front of the building, we were able to save money in two ways. One, we cut down on the cost of having to remove those boulders, because otherwise they would have to be jackhammered apart and then hauled off site. And then, of course, now we didn't have to pay for new boulders. So overall, we saved about $70,000 on this $100,000 item. So we're happy to be able to share that with you. This will be a change order to the project for a total of about $40,000. But we do feel comfortable that we can take on that financial expense at this point. We continue to maintain a healthy amount of contingency for this very challenging environment that we're in, and we're guarding that carefully. But we also don't want to let the opportunities kind of slip through our fingers. And this one presented itself now because either we needed to commit to using these boulders or we needed to pay to get them off site. So we went ahead and pulled the trigger, and we're happy to report that these boulders now are going to be part of the landscape plan once again. One similar item for some additional cost to the project, but something that provides an incredible amount of savings overall, was we looked at adding some additional conduit for future electric vehicle chargers. So we all have seen more and more of the electrical vehicles as we drive around our area. We have 2 vehicle chargers, that's what you can see here on the plan, that are currently part of the project. And we could accommodate a total of 6, so 4 more with the current conduit. But because of where we are right now in the project, the cost to add that conduit is quite minimal. It'll be around $2,000 to $3,000. Whereas if we were to do this after the project was completed, we'd be looking at about $20,000. So by going ahead with this now, again, the timing is key, because if we miss the timing now, we miss that opportunity. We can get the necessary conduit in place so that the project could accommodate up to 12 electric vehicle chargers, and we'll be saving about 85% of the cost on that. So again, that would be a change order to the project of about $3,000, but with those 2 things combined, we feel like we can still be responsible in handling the budget and execute those 2 changes. Also, I told you in the past, when we execute the letters of recommendation, I would update you. So we did have one more that we went forward with. This is for the landscaping package, which I alluded to earlier in the meeting. So the amount is $1,233,425 that goes to Emmanuel. We didn't have as many bidders on this particular scope of work. There were just some parties that didn't want to submit bids, even though they had been solicited. And you can see here that the overall difference was $31,000 less from the original control budget. Now, when we put together the GMP, we had a slightly different number. So this is slightly higher than what's in there. But the overall, all of the buyout packages are still tracking to the GMP. So we're still in good shape on that. And I thought we would have some change orders that we might want to discuss, but there was still some work that needed to be done on those. So we don't, but there will be 2 change orders that will be forthcoming probably by next month that will need school building committee approval, because they will both be over the $100,000 mark. One of them will be a credit, and one of them may be a debit. So we're still working through those details. But that is that's it for our meeting tonight. Unless
Brian,
anyone has-
Brian, can you go back to the conduit there?
Yes. Mhm.
Can you just show us, so it's hard to see. I'm not sure if you can zoom in or not, but
Let me see
it's
if I
what-
can make this bigger.
Okay.
Hey,
I
look
gu-
at
I guess
that.
the question is, the EV chargers, we're installing 2 of them, got that.
Yep.
And those are staff parking, visitor parking, they could be either or. What's the intention there, do you think?
I mean, I actually don't know what the signage is yet. I don't know if we figured out exactly which ones are gonna be staff, which ones are gonna be visitor. That's something that could still be figured out. But we do have 2 available that could be used for either one of those purposes. And like I said, both with the existing and now also with the new, we can have up to 12 chargers. So if the city wants to put more of these electrical vehicle charger on site,
Right.
we could accommodate more so that you could have some for staff and for visitors that are separate.
Right, I guess I'm also just thinking about, like, I really like the idea of adding them, especially now, obviously less expensive. You put them in there, they're there for when we need them right in the future, okay?
Mhm.
And I guess what I'm fearing, I guess sorry, what I was thinking is like, there's a whole bank of parking spaces in the front dedicated to electrical vehicles, and no one's using them, okay? But I guess if I think through it, I was just then thinking through it, we actually don't install those additional chargers until there's a real demand for them, and we've gone electrical vehicles in a major way. Is that more of the thinking?
Yes, that is. And what we're doing is we're running a conduit from the building underneath these areas. So it's possible that within this space, we can maybe extend it and include some, if you're having more, include them so they're not all right up front.
Yeah, I guess I'm thinking, I'm not sure if that's additional cost, but you may want to spread them out a little bit, that sort of thing. If that's not no. Any thoughts on that from people? Maybe I'm just.
Yeah,
in the
I
weeds
can
here.
give you a couple thoughts, like, so one, just so everybody understands, those 2 chargers are actually 4 stations, right? So it's a two per, so you have 4. And then the idea was to go and just put in that initial infrastructure, that underground infrastructure that gives you the flexibility to go and do some of that later. And, there's more work that'll have to get figured out with the utility company, because depending upon how many get installed, there may be a need for a transformer there. They do need to be kind of connected, so to speak. So, but again, I think the important part is to at least have, at a fairly low cost, the ability to put that infrastructure in now versus later. And then, at the point in time when, I think everybody understands that it's headed that way, that it's the appropriate time that you're able to pull that trigger without having to go and rip everything up and replace it. So there's some more work to be done here, but for fairly low cost, you can save yourself a lot of money going forward. That's really the intent here.
Yeah, and I have to point out, it was Brad, I think, who mentioned this first. That would be a good thing to add into the project at this time. So he was thinking ahead. I don't know if you have plans to get an electrical vehicle, Brad, but I don't know if they make big trucks like that now, but maybe in a few years.
There's always hope, Brian. There's always hope.
Thank you.
So
Okay.
Ben, I'll respond to you as well. I had this similar thought about having, kind of one purpose for all the front spaces. And I'm more comforted to know that they can be and likely should be spaced out. I don't know how many times I go past City Hall and, the 2 electric charging station spots are either one is used and the other's not. And it's kind of a premium place to park if you're doing business at City Hall. So I'd hate to have kind of a similar dynamic here if, we have visitors coming or parents dropping things off, that there's really nowhere for them to kind of do a quick drop and go.
So I don't want to mislead anybody here. Kathy said, like, they do all need to be, we can figure out, where we want to lay that conduit, but they all do want to run together. It's not like we could, kind of like sporadically go and pick a spot here, pick a spot there. We could, right? But then we'd really be having to increase the length of that run by quite a bit, and it wouldn't be as cost effective. But we can take a look at, maybe instead of having them all where they're currently shown, where the two current ones are, maybe take a look and have a discussion with the electrical engineers on what might be an opportunity to do something in some other spot, but they kind of want to run together, it's just like, it's like an extension cord with, lots of lines into it, so.
Right. Well, you do have all these parking spaces on, on here, which is not much further distance to get, and this is, I think, a landscape area.
Yeah.
So that, that's something I think that probably could be accommodated.
Yeah.
Without having to go all the way around to these spots.
It's a good question, like you say, maybe we want to go, instead of having them all right up close to the building, we can take this second set that we're talking about for the future and maybe do them on the, on the right side of that detention area.
Yeah. I think that's exactly the way, I think Kathy and I were thinking. I love electric vehicles. I would like to get someone one day, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I get like premium parking reserved for me everywhere, where I go, right? But we want to have them available. We definitely want to have them available. We want to build an infrastructure to have more as the future goes along. Absolutely. So.
Yeah, so let's take a look at that, and then maybe we can report back to you guys on, conduit's relatively inexpensive, so let's take a little look at that and see what we can come up with.
Great.
I think it should be premium parking for people with electric vehicles, just for the record.
Fancy point.
Very biased, really biased.
Okay.
Anything else? Nope.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second. Yeah, Yash, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, sir. Jonathan Pope,
Yes.
thank you. Ben Nemes,
Yes, and thank you, Amy Pascarella, for helping us make a quorum by calling in.
No
thank you.
problem. Sorry, it was tricky.
Richard Safar,
Yes.
thank you. Kathy Clancy,
Yes.
thank you. Gary Fresh,
Yes.
thank you. Matthew Fusco,
Yes.
thank you. Grant Harris,
Yes.
thank you. Amy Pascarello,
Yes.
thank you. Caitlin Nunes,
Yes.
thank you. Have a nice evening, guys.
Okay, it's unanimous. This meeting is adjourned, and thank you all very much, and have a great weekend, and we'll see you all soon.
Enjoy the warm weather this weekend.
Right.
Thank
And
you
all
all.
of you, thank you.
That's everybody.
All right, thanks.
Bye.
Bye.